Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Kat. Hopefully everyone is doing well, hopefully everyone's staying safe. I've been doing pretty good myself. For today's video, I'm going to be wrapping up what I've read in the past 3 months, so that's January, February, March. I read a total of 5 books, so not an astronomical number, but I think better than last year. I was in a reading slump, and I think this year I'm starting to slowly but surely get myself out of it, and I've been reading more. The books I read in the past 3 months, overall, they're all pretty good. I enjoyed what I read, so let's get right into it. The first book I read and finished this year is I've Got Your Number by Sophie Kinsella. This is my second Sophie Kinsella book, and it again was a wonderful read. This book follows Poppy, who loses her engagement ring in a hotel and her phone gets stolen, and she finds an abandoned phone in the hotel lobby. She decides to keep the phone for herself just in case anybody contacts her about her missing ring, but the phone actually belongs to Sam, who is a businessman, and he's not too happy that his phone and his personal messages and emails are in the hands of a total stranger. Sam is your grumpy, rude businessman, not the nicest guy, whereas Poppy is more full of life. She's like the opposite of Sam, essentially. So the book follows Sam trying to get his phone back and Poppy trying to get her engagement ring back, and them slowly falling in love through their interactions with each other. Overall, I give this book, I believe, a 4-star. I had a great time. It was a beautiful read, hilarious. Sam and Poppy's interactions were so good. I loved it, and I guess it kind of reads kind of like a grumpy sunshine trope, but I did love how they interacted in the beginning and how they slowly started to fall in love with each other. So yeah, I really had a good time with this book, and after reading this, it definitely solidified Sophie Kinsella as an author that I would be reading more from, and an author to read if I just want a feel-good, hilarious book to read. And then after that, I read The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. This book follows Natasha and Daniel and their interactions together over the course of one day. Natasha is actually going to be deported with her family back to Jamaica the next day due to her father's mistakes, and Daniel is on his way to an interview with an Ivy League school, and the pressure he's receiving from his parents of becoming a doctor while he wants to be a poet. It's both of them dealing with separate issues, yet spending a whole day together. This book also has multiple POVs, so you of course get Natasha and Daniel's POVs, but you also get POVs from other side characters that have interacted with them. So it's actually kind of refreshing reading that. This book deals with some really hard-hitting topics, very important topics, such as immigration, assimilation when moving to a new country, dealing with family pressures, pressure from your parents, all that stuff. I felt like I could really relate on both ends, from Daniel's parents pressuring him to Natasha's parents who've immigrated to this country and wanted to make a life for the family. I'm first-generation American. My parents are from the Fiji Islands, so I can imagine coming from an island to a whole different country is definitely a big step. So I can only imagine how scary it is to learn everything all over again and at the same time trying to build a life for your family. It's not easy. So it gives you a little bit more appreciation, and it definitely did that. I definitely found more appreciation for my parents than I already do. So this book was beautiful. I definitely recommend everyone to read it. Doesn't matter what age you are, even if this is a YA fiction, I still think everyone should give it a read. I personally loved Daniel's character. He was hilarious and so adorable, and he really made the book for me, to be honest. So I recommend this all the way. After that, I read From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I am so happy I read this book. I had such a good time with this book. I gave it a 4.5-star rating. I really, really enjoyed it. This book follows a character named Poppy, which I honestly feel like I've read so many books where the main character's name is Poppy, and I think authors need to stop using that name. Like, it's everywhere. Almost every book I read, someone's name is Poppy. I feel like it's an overdone name. Anywhoozits, Poppy. That's the main character's name, and she is the maiden or the chosen one, and her role is that she's going to eventually ascend and be with the gods or something like that. Being the maiden means you can't socialize with anyone. So Poppy cannot socialize with anyone. No one knows how she looks like. No one can speak to her, look at her, be in her presence, or touch her or anything aside from her guards and I believe her maid. One night, Poppy meets Hawk. They have a steamy moment together, and then after that, Hawk becomes her royal bodyguard after one of her bodyguards die. And so it's all the awesome interactions between Poppy and Hawk. I loved it so much. And so aside from their sizzling moments, the backdrop of the book is there are vampires, vampire-like creatures who are also posing a threat to the kingdom, and also a dark prince and his supporters who are on the rise. I really enjoyed this book. I think it was cute and steamy and well done, and I love the romance and I love the banter. I love the interactions between Poppy and Hawk. I think it was so great, and there's this twist towards the end, and if you've read it, I'm sure you know what it is. I spoiled it for myself, guys. I'm so mad. I spoiled it for myself before even reading it, so I knew what the twist was, but I still enjoyed it when I read it. I cannot wait till I read the next one. I only have the second book with me, so I have to buy the next two books that have already come out. I'm so happy I read this. I know it's been everywhere, and I'm not one to really pick up books that are overhyped, but I'm glad that I picked this one up. After that, I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This is my first Colleen Hoover book. This book follows Lily, who comes from an abusive household. She's witnessed abuse in her parents' marriage, and she finally decides to escape from that and make a living for herself and start her own business, etc. Later down the road, she meets a man and finds herself in an abusive marriage as well. And it's her journey breaking that cycle so that her kids don't have to witness that, and her kids don't end up in one either. To be honest, I don't have much to say about this book. I'm not going to rate this book. I didn't decide to rate this book. It did not feel right for me to rate this book. It's an experience that's not my own. The main character, Lily's parents' marriage, is based off of Colleen Hoover's parents' marriage, so it just feels wrong to rate this book because it's someone else's experience. Overall, this is a very hard-hitting book. I don't even need to mention the content and trigger warnings because there is a lot, abuse of course being the biggest one. I wish I were more prepared when I went into this book. I've never read a book that described abuse scenes so head-on, so this was a lot for me to take in, to be honest. And I wish I was a little bit more prepared. I wish I read more reviews, watched more videos, etc. Maybe took my time a little bit more before reading it, but I was really excited to read it for some reason. I was really wanting to, and I just kind of dove in. It's a very deep book, but it can be very triggering, and it was triggering for me, big time. I did finish the book in a day and a half, so it's not that it was a bad book. It was a good book. It was interesting, kept me going. But I didn't have an enjoyable experience. I don't think there's really a lot that's enjoyable about this kind of book. There is an element of romance in there, and it's nice, but this is definitely not a romance book. And I know there's a lot of readers who have a problem with that because the book is shelved under romance, but that's not the point of this book, and it's not the biggest part of this book. The book is about Lily and her journey of breaking a cycle. I just wish I was a little bit more prepared. And after finishing it, I had to process my emotions and my feelings, and that's that. I don't think I ever want to read a book like this again, but I definitely do want to read more of Colleen Hoover's books because she's a great author. Her writing is great, and the way she creates her characters is pretty good. So I would love to read more of her books, but I definitely think I will do more research before going into them. In terms of recommending, I don't recommend this book to everyone because it can be very triggering, but I do recommend this book to everyone because of its important topic. And then after that, the last book I read in the past 3 months is How to Love the Universe, Scientist's Odes to the Hidden Beauty Behind the Visible World. This is by Stephen Klein, and this is a nonfiction book about, you guessed it, the universe. I probably mention this all the time, but I do love astronomy, I love physics, I love science like that. Overall, I gave it a 3-star rating. The content is digestible. You don't need to know a lot before going in. However, the presentation was boring. I didn't like the way the information was presented. It is poetic in the way that it's presented, like it really does use some poeticness to describe our wonderful universe, but overall the way the information was presented seemed very boring and I found myself skimming. So this is probably not one of my most favorite nonfiction books when it comes to the universe. But guys, that's all I have for today. Let me know what you're reading. Let me know what your favorite books in the past 3 months were. My plan is to read 10 books for the months of April, May, and June. So I hope I can get to 10 books. We'll see. But if I can do 5 books, then I can do 10 books. That's going to be my next goal. Anyways, hopefully you guys are all doing well. Hopefully you guys are reading some great books. Let me know again what you're reading and what you're enjoying. And stay safe. Please keep everyone around you safe. And I'll see you next time. Bye.